I'm going to tell you all right now, all of these wonderful people would not be here without Patreon supporters like you. If you enjoy credible news, reviews, and commentary on UFOs and UAPs 5 days a week, you want to support this show. What's your name? Marty. Marty, look how easy this is, Marty. Pick up your phone. Boom! You're a Patreon member. I mean, look, it's so easy. You just click the link, which is right here. Just for $1 a month, you can support this show. Just fill out the information and pledge what's comfortable for you. It could be $1, $5, $10, or who knows. Just support. Hello, 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 hello. Good morning, good evening, good day, and good afternoon. And aloha. Welcome back to another episode of the Unidentified Celebrity Review, your home for credible news, reviews, and commentary on everything UAP and UFO. My name's Luis Jimenez. That is Rather Be Squitting right next to me. I hope everyone is doing well out there on this Monday afternoon. Rather, how was your weekend?
It was good, relaxing. I've been replacing all the lights in my house because it's starting to get dark early, and now I kind of need to do that. But other than that, it's been fun.
How long have they been out, Rather?
Pretty much all summer, really.
Wow, you're such a bachelor. You're such a bachelor. Anyway, before we get started with today's show, I want to say thank you to the sponsor, BlueMarlinChronicles.com, purveyors of the world's finest fishing tackle since 1995. I want to say thank you to DOS Tapes. They provide all of the tunes that you hear on the show. Their Bandcamp link is in the description below. Also, want to remind you guys that right after the show, the podcast will be available both on Spotify and iTunes. Check out our Patreon. I think it's one of the funnest Patreon subscriptions out there to a show like this. Super Chats, of course, are always open. So if you've got a burning question, Super Chat is a great way to get it in there. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and ring that bell. That way you are notified every time we go live. And we're going to have a show now 4 days a week, 5 days a week between Singularity Lab, the Daniel Miller, the known quantities. The known quantities with Daniel Miller, and then of course us, the Unidentified Celebrity Review. So of course check out the links below. Everybody's links are down below. I will get Dan Warren, our guest for today, who's going to be filling in. I'm going to get his link in the description while we introduce him. So I hope you guys are ready for a good time. Thanks for coming aboard and getting weird with us here, and let's do it. Today we've got a really killer guest. We did have James Ian Doley. Don't be bummed out though. James will be back next Monday, and we're going to be doing the Crash Retrievals week with him as well. So that's just going to be a really cool week. But without further ado, this gentleman stepped in. He's a really, really, really wonderful mind thinker, and just a great voice out there in the community. He helped us get Tim Burchett for the Burchett, I screwed that up. Tim Burchett's phone call during the big phone home. So he helped facilitate and coordinate that. So that was a huge, huge help. And he's got some news as far as other activism goes. I mean, he's mailed his letters to his congressmen and his senators, and he got a response from his senator. So we're going to talk about that today and a lot of other things. It's going to be a really cool discussion. So without further ado, Mr. Dan Warren. Dan, how you doing?
Good evening, gentlemen. How are you guys doing?
We're doing good.
Doing well.
We're doing good. Can't complain. How are you?
I'm happy to be here. I'm doing pretty good. I had a little bit of dinner, but not too much because the butterflies are taking up a lot of room in my stomach right now.
Dude, you are so funny with how nervous you get. You don't need to be. I don't know why people get nervous for a channel that has under 5,000 subscribers.
It wears off after a while, but it's just I got red light-itis. Like anytime I see that red flashing light, I know it's time to get nervous. I can't.
Oh man, that's funny. Well, I guess I'm used to it. I've done so many shows at this point on this channel. But I could understand.
Every time you're watching yourself do something on a camera, it's a little bit weird and nerve-wracking.
Indeed it is. So Dan, where do you want to start today, man? You've been on the show before, so everybody knows your background, sort of what you do. But if you want to refresh everybody real quick, you're more than welcome to, or we can just
I
jump
can give
right
people
into
kind
it.
of a rundown about who I am, because a lot of people probably don't know much about me, so might as well fill in the void.
There you go.
I'm an engineer by education and profession. I got a mechanical engineering degree and a master's of engineering management degree from the University of Tennessee Space Institute. I've worked at Air Force bases across the country. I'm in the test and development side, actually the maintenance of the testing centers that were out there. I've had a lifelong fascination with the UFO topic and all the branches that come off of that tree. It's a never-ending giving tree when it comes to exercising your mind. So it's been a wild ride, and the last 4 years, which today is the 4-year anniversary of Tom DeLonge's press conference with To the Stars. So it's been a wild 4 years for sure, and it keeps getting more exciting as the time goes by. But I also have a TikTok channel. That's my contribution to the engaging with the general public on the 5th pillar of emphasis over there. That's, of course, in alignment with Chris Mellon and Lou Elizondo's drive to do get political engagement, international engagement, and engaging with the masses. So that's what my attempt at TikTok is to engage with the masses. And I put out some videos today, and I really hope that I get some of my TikTok family in the comments asking questions. I'd love to see them show up. So I'm hoping that they're here. If they're here, what's up, guys?
Oh, I'm sure they'll be popping through for sure. Oh man, I've missed some super chats here. Okay, sorry guys, I had my screen on another setting, so I missed. First of all, thank you all for being here. Thank you for the super chats. MP with a $20 donation. I actually almost called you today, man, because of the. Dude, actually stick around because we might email you with a link if you want to come on the show and talk about the news today of this guy quitting because he's like, yep, China's basically won the digital arms race. Like there's nothing we can do. And MP said this on Michael's show 4 months ago. And this has been something that has been in the news and has been ignored for the better part I believe 4 to 5 years. I don't know, he could correct me on the timing on that, but thank you for the $20 super chat. And Ryan Sprague's in the house. What's up, Ryan? Thank you for being here, my dude. He's lined me up with some really fun interviews that'll be coming up soon. And NeuroStream, any new thoughts on that recent submarine USO collision incident? We can get into that. I caught a little slack because I shared an article about it that had a picture of an old submarine that was damaged, and everybody's like, that's not the submarine. I'm like, never said it was. I just said this is an interesting story. Like I never mentioned anything about the picture. And truth be told, I didn't know either way. I when I read the article, I assumed that picture was the damaged submarine, but that's not what I was focused on. I was focused on the story of it. Which is really cool, you know, when a submarine, one of these highly advanced, do you guys know what year this sub was? How old this submarine is? I thought it was pretty new, from my understanding.
It's a Cold War era sub. I can't remember.
Okay,
exactly
so it could be.
It's brand spanking new.
It's not brand spanking new. Okay, well, if it's old, then I can see how maybe an older radar system on it would have missed something that they hit. And who knows?
I'm sure it's not original equipment throughout. I'm sure they upgrade those things just like your computers.
I know they upgrade.
Have the latest and greatest.
Right. And I don't think it's an unprecedented event either. You know, it has happened. That you showed the picture that it has happened before. So it's unclear that it's really
Well, the description of it was like a high speed. If I'm not mistaken, they were saying it was a high speed object underwater that they hit.
So I think there was some tweets that went out about a guy that was rumored to have, or that said that's what happened on Reddit or something, or on Twitter. I can't remember, but all the articles keep saying it hit something. It impacted something, not something impacted it. So to me, it ran into a stationary object until I'm told otherwise.
No, that's fair. That's fair. But yeah, no, it was still pretty cool. NP, hit me up on Discord. Oh no. Okay, well maybe you know what?
Yeah, I
Actually,
got you, Lou.
you're on Discord. You're on Discord rather, so maybe you can send them the link through Discord. Because I am not on Discord, even though I have a Discord link. Sorry, Discord folks. I love all of you, but yeah, I'm terrible at Discord. Okay, so Dan, what do we want to get into first? Shall we get into this letter that you received from your senator,
Well,
or
how about we stick with the underwater discussion, because
That's
that,
fair.
like, for those of you that don't know, Lou and I were on Calling All Beings yesterday, and we had a roundtable discussion with several other folks, and we were proposing questions. I wrote a couple of them down that didn't get answered, so one of them is relevant to the discussion that we just had. So if you don't mind, I'll just read it. If I can pull it up real quickly. Okay, so all the efforts associated with the UAP task force and the recent congressional bills focus strictly on aerial and orbital anomaly data collection and analysis. But the phenomenon is inextricably linked to water. We've all recognized that at this point. Is it time to push for inclusion of underwater sonar surveillance and other aquatic techno signatures in the scope of the new UAP office? And how should we cost effectively collect such data? Basically, like, how can we start to, I mean, we're looking at half of the puzzle. We need to know what the other half is.
Well,
how do we get there?
That's really, aren't we probably collecting that data already for, like, sub monitoring and all that sort of stuff?
So my understanding is any especially military grade sonar is going to be highly classified. That's going to be the most classified. So that is going to be very difficult to pry out of the hands of the military and the government. So that's where we got to start, in my opinion, looking for other resources to collect data that's underwater sonar data. Google Maps, for instance, like, they're mapping the bottom of the ocean. Like, we can pursue that and use that as a tool. And then we have fleets of commercial grade vehicles that are constantly monitoring the oceans and looking below them. They have like an FAA. They're basically like mobile FAA stations. How can we tap that resource to start to look for anomalous activity under the surface of the ocean? Because we've all heard the stories that are out there that things have been picked up at high speed. We just talked about it. So there's got to be a way to get access to that information that's commercially available. How do we pry it out of their hands and use AI to analyze it? I guess would probably be the best way to go about it.
Well, it would be difficult. That would be difficult too, because you would have to get the agreement. I mean, assuming you get the agreement from, let's say, every single American company to sort of give them permission to sort of pry on their systems and look for other anomalies while they're going through that space anyway. Let's say you did. Most of the ships that come in and out of our ports are foreign, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know if you'll be able to get them on board, but I think that's a wonderful idea. And I think it's something that would definitely, I think it's a part of the discussion that has to be included in the UAP task force, because I think you're right. I think we're only getting half the discussion right now.
And I don't even think we need the exact data to get some information from it. If the UAP task force goal was to eliminate the stigma for just reporting and talking about it, maybe that's something that we need to focus on for oceanic vehicles. Maybe we need to have a reporting system for when they see something. They don't have to tell us, like, here's my data from my sonar, but here's what I saw. And they could start to provide us with some anecdotal information, if nothing else. And maybe there's a way to pick up and establish a pattern of where those sightings are occurring most frequently. Just the thought, it's got to happen at some point.
Well, you would figure if there's hot spots on terrestrial land, there must be hot spots underwater, I would assume.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Love to see Galileo Project put some sonars near Catalina Islands, right? And start studying that stuff.
I wonder if that's a question that Avi's even been asked. Are you going to look into the ocean? Because these things tend to come out and go into the ocean. And there's a lot of space that we haven't looked at.
Astronomer, so I don't know if he's going to be looking down too much.
I don't think he's going to be looking down too much either, but it should be part of the discussion, or at least part of their organization. They should get an oceanographer then, Whoever they got to get that needs to start looking at that part of the data, because I think you're right. We're missing something here. I'm curious to know if that's why the Navy has taken such an active role in discussing this, because obviously the Navy's doing the aircraft carriers and all the submarines, and in some cases planes and helicopters. Why wouldn't it seems like they're the perfect people to maybe head this discussion up, and that could be why the Air Force is being so quiet.
The stories that I've heard that are associated with the Navy come from David Fravor, like his encounters that he described on the Joe Rogan Experience, where the torpedo got sucked down by some large object under the surface of the ocean, as well as the 747 shaped object under the ocean underneath the Tic Tac. So that's all I've gotten from Navy encounters. But there's a book called Invisible Residents by Ivan T. Sanderson. Came out in 1970, 1971. I just bought it probably about 3 weeks ago, and it has blown my mind. Like it reads like it was written last week. Like when at the time it was published, they were like, this guy's crazy. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. But he was calling them UAPs. He was hitting the nail on the head on so many things. If you just even read the back of the book, the back cover of the book, you're going to look at it and go, all right, I'm buying. That's a buy. That's got to be in my collection. So anybody out there should get that book and read it. I've bought it for a friend of mine, even just to have him read it, so I can have someone to bounce that conversation off of.
Yeah. What's the name of the book again?
Invisible Residents. And it's basically he's making the argument that there could be an advanced civilization dwelling within our Earth's oceans. And this goes back to the discussion we had about the abyss.
Right. I was just about to bring that up.
Those entities that came, that intelligence that came from another planet, when you read the backstory, they came from an ocean world where there was no land. So they developed underwater. And so when they get here, obviously they're going to go to what's comfortable for them. So they went under the water. And maybe that's where they're hanging out now. If they're coming to visit us, they know we can't get there.
Yeah.
Did Jazz Shaw write this book?
Oh, no. There's no dolphins in it yet, but I'm sure we could incorporate those into it.
Has there been a sequel written?
Well, I think it needs to be refreshed. Like to me, it's so groundbreaking that it could definitely be turned around, and someone could make a remix of it, more or less, and update the cases. Like he does go through a lot of actual sightings and encounters that have occurred, to me, that sound FOIA-able. And that's where I'll tell you right now, I'm intimidated by the FOIA process, and I don't have the skills of Black Vault, obviously.
Right.
But that's where I want to try to start cutting my teeth, is going through this book case by case, where he references particular ships, particular locations and dates, and use that to submit some FOIAs and see if they come.
Nope.
I think we might be
losing him. Let's see if he comes back.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah. Let's see if he comes back. Where are you, Danny?
That's
Red Panda Koala in the house. Yeah. There's a good 2006 Russian documentary on USOs. The YouTube channel Thoughts on UFOs has it right now. Cool. Thank you so much for the $5 there, Red Panda. Appreciate it. Thank you for the tip.
I wonder how many other countries' documentaries on these topics that I'm missing, right? Like a Russian documentary on this topic sounds fascinating.
Yeah. All right. So let me see. I kicked him out. Let me see if we can get him back. In the meantime, maybe, what do you think of that idea? Rather than an idea of a civilization that's maybe been here and they're way more advanced. That part right there is the part that I'm like, oh man, my ego is too big to be like, yeah, sure, there could be that. Like realistically thinking, I don't know why I think it's kind of a silly thought. I think because part of me thinks, oh, well, the ocean's been looked at, but really it hasn't. There's so much we haven't explored. I mean, a more advanced civilization. I mean, think about that for a moment.
Yeah. I mean, there is so much not looked at down there, right? But But when we do look, like there's the MH370, that plane that was lost in around Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And, they did a huge ocean floor search on that, and trying to find the lost wreckage. And it doesn't seem like they found any advanced civilization there. But of course, that's just like maybe less than 1% of the ocean floor.
Yeah, it's less.
So
than
yeah,
1%.
there's a lot of room to hide.
I mean, I am interested, man. I wonder, because I think there's really only 2 or 3 people who've privately and maybe with some government help have explored the bottom of the deepest parts of the ocean. One of them being James Cameron and the other Jacques Cousteau. And Jacques didn't really go deep because the technology wasn't there as a diver for him to go deep. I mean, they had submarines, but not like they do today. And I don't think there were, like remote controlled submersibles as advanced. There might have been, I can't really remember, but I don't think if there weren't, obviously they weren't as good as today. But I would be damn curious to know what went like to talk to James Cameron. Like, yeah, I would kill.
Really got that secret info.
I don't know if he's got secret info, but I bet he would have a much more nuanced perspective to that question, as to whether there could be a more advanced civilization right now existing, and if there was, would we be able to see the techno signature?
Yeah, and I mean, if you even want to get deeper and crazier than this, the right below the ocean is the outer mantle of the Earth, which is essentially a liquid rock ocean that's many more times deep and wide and voluminous than the ocean. So maybe they're going down to the ocean floor and going into those underground vents and living there.
That's a really harsh environment.
It is, and your intuition, mine too, makes you think that nothing could survive down there. It's completely barren, But there's scientific studies that show that life can potentially exist even in those crazy harsh environments.
Yeah, but we're talking about microbes.
No, we're talking. I mean, we're talking about
full mammal.
Not mammals, of course. It'd be life unlike we know it, right? It'd be life based on.
But I'm saying eyes, heart, a breathing system of some kind.
Yeah, but they'd be breathing,
methane,
or not even methane, but like liquid rock, essentially.
Yeah,
and different isotopes in there.
Mean, dude, it just doesn't seem real. Like I really have a hard time fathoming an animal breathing molten rock.
Yeah, no, I mean it is,
or an intelligence, like an intelligence breathing molten rock.
Yeah, that's so wild. Life here on Earth is kind of revolves around what's called redox reactions, and they happen in water for life like us. And I've always thought that you couldn't have these kind of reversible chemical reactions where you can store energy and then release it. And that's kind of the foundation of our biology. Those same types of reactions do exist in extremely high temperature environments. So it's possible that you could have something that's manipulating these molten lava oceans that is creating energy potentials and then releasing them. And I'm with you. It does seem very far out, and it's something that is almost kind of beyond comprehension. But if you look into the science of it, it's possible. And if it's possible, who knows, right?
I mean, who knows? But I mean, wouldn't we see signs of them in our volcano explosions? Or,
I mean, that's one of the things you see. UAPs are associated with volcanic events. Something they're commonly seen flying in and out of them, and
that's true. That's true. I can't argue with that. Artisan Tony has a $10 super chat. Says, I want to start a FOIA club where we all get together and each take a subject to request info on and not duplicate efforts. You guys in? I would be in, but I don't have the time for that. But what I could do is I could recommend to you to get together with Witness Citizen Sean Reich, who's going to be, I always screw up the pronunciation of his last name, Rosh. And reach out to him, because I know I've hooked him up with John Greenwald Jr. of the Black Vault, and they're just really good at that. I don't think FOIAs are not my strong suit, so I just don't feel like I'm good with that. Whereas I'm more of talking to and communicating with people is more my strong suit. Requests, like technical requests, almost like Dan was saying, let's bring him back on. He's back. Those technical requests in a FOIA, they're kind of intimidating to me.
I do like Artisan Tony's kind of point that he's trying to make. Like, it would be cool if there was a list of like keywords and you could see, hey, Black Vault is, already FOIAing this, Dan Morin's FOIAing these terms, and maybe you could add your own terms that you think would be useful,
the person I would strongly recommend going to first would be John Greenwald Jr. and then Sean Rash. Both of them would be amazing resources on this right here. Because I could tell you, if we had 100 John Greenwald Jr.'s looking into this with the ferocity that he does it at, we may have had disclosure a while ago, but who knows? At least we definitely would be having a lot more interesting conversations. Before these super chats go away, I want to acknowledge them real quick. Another $20 super chat from MP. Thank you, my dude. You all see the Blackout Invasion Earth on Amazon Prime. Great take on the progenitor.
My watch list is getting pretty big here, but
progenite. Yeah, I've never seen that word. What does that mean?
I think it means like procreation of some sort, like it's going to replicate invasion by
replication,
breeding into us, I guess.
Ah, okay, that makes sense with the okay. I have not seen it. I'll check it out, dude. We have Amazon Prime, so I will definitely look into it. And then there was another $5 donation here from G West. Thank you so much, my friend. Are you going to have Hissing ex-UAP on the show to talk about the crazy disclosure stuff he's been tweeting about today? No, I want to have a phone call with him first before I bring him on the show. I want to make sure he's okay. I don't know what he's been tweeting about. I'm very confused to it as much as you guys are. I'd rather reach out to him as a friend first and see if everything's okay. Because that's not like him. I haven't seen him act like that. But then again, he's very, very new to Twitter. So who knows? It could be a joke. I don't know David Hiss extremely well, but I know he's a nice guy. Past that, I would just say if you're really worried, just ask if he's okay. Reach out to him and just make sure he's okay, or if he needs an ear to bend, offer an ear to bend, because that's what I'm gonna do. And if then I feel like it's okay for him to come on the show, maybe we'll bring him on the show and discuss what he has to say. But yeah, that's sort of my take on it. Did you guys have anything to add to that? Have you seen what David Hiss has been tweeting the last 24 hours?
I read 2 tweets. I read the first one and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then I read the second one and I kind of responded like you did, like, okay, that's interesting in an entirely different way. So yeah, I don't know how to take it.
Yeah, I'm more concerned than I am like, yeah, this could be true. So again, like I would say just reach out to people if you think that they're speaking from a place of hurt or pain or emotional conflict. I mean, this is a great community to do that. So
yeah, it's easy to get taken away by this topic, right? Like it's hard to stay grounded sometimes.
It is. I mean, McGowan put out a cool video about it, about this idea that all of us that are talking about this right now, like we are, people are, whether we'd like to admit it or not, they're looking at us as if we have a mental illness, as if there's something wrong with us, when we're very sane, level-headed people that are just interested in something fascinating that's happening and that's tangible.
And we all probably have our own mental illnesses, right? Like that should be way less
Yes.
stigmatized as well
Way
as
less
the whole,
stigmatized.
all this.
Absolutely. No, everybody's got issues. Everybody should be probably seeing a therapist on some level. Everybody always needs an ear to bend and someone to just listen, and bounce things off of, and then hopefully they can work through it themselves, because you can't be everywhere and available to everyone at all times. People have got their stuff to take care of, but if you can lend a half hour, an hour to let somebody vent, or just express themselves, give them a safe place to be heard privately, try and do it. It makes me sad. I because it's this is what the stigma does. This is the harm it inflicts on the community, because we all we want, and it's why we gravitate toward a Michio Kaku, or we gravitate toward a Kurt Jamungle, or any one of these brilliant minds, a Brian Bender, a Tyler Rogaway, a Tim McMillan, like any one of these really brilliant guys who's done great work outside of this topic, bring their credibility and their voice to it. We go to them like a moth to flames, because it's like, finally, somebody's speaking to how we feel and how we think. I'm not going to go as far to say is how we believe. Some of us believe. And this is why it's dangerous to believe things.
Eric Weinstein is that guy for me. Like him being involved Eric makes Weinstein. Me go, look at that guy's change in perspective on the topic in just
mine's Lex Friedman.
Few short months.
Yeah. Lex Friedman, David Fravor, and Michio Kaku are three for me that I can think off the top of my head. Eric Weinstein's great too. It's this feeling of being stigmatized or labeled for this part of the conversation. It's crumbling. It's coming to an end, and I promise you, within your lifetime, you will see it absolutely destroyed. There's a younger, fresher push to this now, and that's all we want to do is, I feel like, kill the stigma, because once you kill the stigma, now we can have a conversation intellectually. We could go forward, and you can tell me why I'm wrong, or tell me why parts of my argument are right, or or even just possible. It's gonna happen. So that's what I would say. We love David around here, so if you could lend an ear for him to bend, please do so. I appreciate the question, and maybe one day we'll get to it. Leaf with a $5 donation. Generic, keep up the good work, fellas. Message. Keep up the. Oh, all right. I don't know. Do you guys know what that means? Did I read that wrong?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe it was voice to text.
you're muted, rather.
So he's saying, keep up the good work, fellas. A generic message of congratulations, I think.
Gotcha.
Okay. I didn't see the quotes there. Got it. Okay. Thank you, Leaf. I appreciate it. Oh, man. Sometimes I read good. But we appreciate it. Akashi Chris with a $5 donation. Thank you, Lou. You're a class act. Love you all. Thank you, my lady. Appreciate it. Kashi Chris, always been a big fan of the show. We're a big fan of them. Who changed their name to DC Muscle Wolf? Oh God, dude. This is
Dan.
I
would blame Matthew Wright.
I have no idea.
Don't Google it. Whatever you do, don't Google DC Muscle Wolf. It's not worth it.
You know, like half of the listeners are currently Googling DC Muscle Wolf right now.
I think that was the idea. But it's funny. We're just not going to talk about it. Okay, so Dan, what? I'm sorry. It's been a while since you cut out, but you were in the middle of saying something. Do you remember exactly what?
Absolutely not. I don't know where I cut out. No, we're talking about underwater stuff.
Well, we were talking about the underwater sort of perspective, and then Rather and I got into this idea of, beings being under there and possibly a more advanced sort of civilization, and how hard that is to grasp intellectually, because rather than start to talk about, well, maybe there are entities that could breathe in molten lava or survive within that environment, and that's a normal environment for them, and it's just so difficult to comprehend that could be literally right under our feet. But I mean, what did you sort of have anything to add to that?
So one of the things that I've kind of been thinking about lately is we as humans think we're number one on this planet. It's hard for us to accept that we might not be. So we as humans do not live in a sustainable manner. Look at what was happening all around us right now. Like it's not good. Even Elon Musk is saying like we got to leave the planet because of various reasons. We need to be a multi-planet species because we are not sustainable.
Let me ask you something, Dan. I'm sorry to cut you off, but you have children, right?
Absolutely. 2 of them. Beautiful.
How do you feel for your kids? Like, are you worried for them that they might have to move to Mars or take a rocket ship to Mars?
Nothing that extreme. I'm more concerned about the cyber threat, to be honest, that was spoken about by NP today. There's economic reasons that are much more pressing to me than moving to another planet. I don't think it's going to be my kids. I don't know how many generations down the road it'll be, but at some point, if we're going to continue as a civilization, the Earth's going to burn, the sun's going to burn out at some point, or the planet will become unsustainable. So we got options. We can stay and become extinct, or we can leave and try it again somewhere else.
Rather, you got anything to add to that? You have so many kids.
I mean, I was thinking
illegitimate children out there that are little squids running around.
Have you ever seen the show Doomsday Preppers, where people have bug out bags in case of calamities and go hide out in the woods? I just love the idea of people having doomsday preppers and building their own spaceships to go off to Mars in case of a Earth-wide calamity.
Dude, that would be wild, man.
Hey, it happened on The Simpsons, so you know it's going to happen in real life.
Indeed. That is true, man. All right, so Dan, what do you want to get into next?
I've got some other questions if you want to try to
let's fire away, because that was a fun one to sit on. I'm
gonna follow up on the topic that we just discussed, like if they're here already. Robert Bigelow has said that you don't have to go anywhere to find the others, that they're right under your noses. James Fox has recently stated that 1% of the population are in fact alien by nature. If we assume this is an accurate statement, would they engage in the mundane activities associated with human existence, such as working, raising kids, going to the doctor, engaging on social media like UFO Twitter? Would they even know they are unlike us? Would they be similar to a Manchurian candidate? What aspect of this possibility do you find most interesting, and what do you find most disturbing?
Didn't they do a documentary on this called Third Rock from the Sun with John Lithgow?
One of my wife's favorite sitcoms of all time. Yeah.
Third Rock from the Sun.
But yeah,
I do. Funny damn show.
That is interesting. Like, if they are disguising themselves as humans, are they going to work, buying groceries and all that other stuff?
If they're gonna commit, they gotta commit. They gotta do exactly what we do. And to me, the best way for them not to expose themselves would for them to not know, that they would think that they are just like us, but they're different. Like maybe the bloodlines has something to do with it. This is pure speculation. But it's fun speculation.
Do you think that bloodline would guarantee societal dominance?
No, I don't think so.
No. I mean, I am curious. I mean, if you were an alien and you didn't know about it, I'm curious to know, like, how to, like, what kind of blood, what kind of DNA, what would their DNA look like? Would they have the same blood as us?
Maybe
it's fun to think about.
Maybe it's not so much blood and physical traits as capabilities. Maybe like we've all heard of psychics, like in remote viewers and people that have certain abilities that others don't have, people that are sensitive. Maybe that's part of what their abilities are. Maybe when they're kids, they're able to use them more and it goes away if they're not needed, and they live their life as a human being and they never know that they weren't. I mean, the possibilities are, of course, endless on where this could go.
Dude, that's pretty wild.
But James Fox's comment about 1% is the one that I struggle with the most, because that's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. How many people are on the planet? I know there's 360 billion here. What is it?
360 million.
Million,
yeah,
not billion.
I think it's 3 something billion in China. So I mean, I think there's
China,
8 billion people on the planet. So
1% of that would be quite a bit.
Yeah, like 700,000.
Yeah,
or
700 million. Yeah,
my math skills are being exposed as we speak.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's all right. You're the engineer. You're the one. You should be the one with the strongest math skills here.
Thank goodness for calculators.
Yeah, that quote right under our noses is interesting too. Luis Elizondo mentioned that on our show when we asked him about what one sensor could be that would detect everyone, and he made the comment that it was right under our noses. So so maybe they are all around us.
And that leads to they're already here. They've always been here. And one of the things that I've been fascinated with is George Knapp's. When he was on the TMZ the show, he mentioned that they said, well, if it's not aliens from outer space, what could it be? And he said, well, they've been here all the time. They've lived amongst us. They're crypto-terrestrials. So one of the things I wonder about is, how long does something have to be on Earth before we don't consider it alien anymore? Like, human civilization has been on the planet for 150,000 years. Like, if they've been here for longer than that, are they aliens anymore? Like, when do you get your Earth citizenship?
That's a good question. I mean, what if they were here all along and we're the ones who popped up? That's... I mean, this idea, the way, and you didn't say this, but the thing that Luis Elizondo says that I always kind of just makes me ponder is this sort of, as man was setting sail on the seas, at the start, and they're starting to get really far out into the ocean, and they see these huge fins, or they see these massive animals jumping in the sky and splashing down. And they're scared, they're confused. They had no idea that those things existed just beneath the surface of the water. And I always wonder if it's something like, is it really something that close and that tangible? And if so, are these sightings, are these experiences, these animals, breaching the water and showing themselves and then going underneath the surface? And it's not until society and science catches up to the fact that they're whales and they're sharks and they're all of these very explainable things that in some cases you should be afraid of in the right setting, but for the most part, they're just part of our ecosystem. They're part of what makes the world habitable and sustainable, and it's got a balance to it. And I'm curious if we're part of that balance, and whatever is that entity or that thing that we can't see is also part of that balance. So, or is it in control of it?
So I'm a big fan of ancient history and mankind's origins. And for the longest time, Zawi Hawass, who was I'll call him the Egyptian curator of all things, he had some crazy title, was battling with Graham Hancock about the age of the Sphinx and the pyramids. And his argument was, if there were civilizations older than the Old Kingdom, where are they? Show me one. You can't show me one. And then about 15 years later, a donkey or something landed on a soft patch of dirt, and they discovered Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, and that reset the origins of humanity. So, and one of the things he stated in American History or American Mystery, I can't remember the name of the book that he just released, he said, if we expect to find civilization, remnants of civilization that are 5,000 years old, and we find them, we're going to stop and we're going to say, oh, we found what we were looking for, we're going to move on. But what's to prevent us from digging down even deeper and finding a civilization that they built on top of? because that is a trait of humanity, is we don't usually just spring up in one location. We rebuild. The location that we started civilization in was selected for a reason, because it was advantageous for human existence. So these locations where we're finding ancient remnants like Göbekli Tepe, what if we dig down another inch and we find something that's 20,000 years old, and another 10 feet from there? What if there's something incredible right under our noses that we just haven't dug down deep enough to find? And that gets you back to like the architectural finds that have been discussed recently. So who knows what we can find if we start to poke and prod in certain locations on this planet.
Can you remind me how old Göbekli Tepe is? How do you say it?
Göbekli Tepe.
Göbekli Tepe. I'm always terrified to say that rude, but how old is it again?
So the pyramids are estimated to be 45,000 years old, 4,500 years old, excuse me.
Right.
Göbekli Tepe dates back to before Sumerian times, and it's dated to just after what's called the Younger Dryas event that occurred roughly 12,000 years ago. Right. Göbekli Tepe is estimated to be about 11,500 years old to 11,800 years old, if I got my numbers right.
Yeah.
I mean, it just doubles the amount of history, of civilized history that we have of mankind in our historic record. So it was a game changer. It really set back the clock and changed the way that we have to look at ourselves. And
what was the most sort of advanced part of that archaeological find?
The size.
As you notice, I avoided the name of it.
So the Göbekli Tepe complex is sprawling. It's not just one structure. It is football fields worth of megalithic structure after megalithic structure. They're arranged in, like, I think there's pillars. I think there's 12 pillars with 2 central pillars in the middle that are multiple ton stones that are 12 to 15 feet tall. And it's all these circular areas. We don't know exactly. Everyone's going to call them temples just because that's what we do with ancient sites, but we don't know what they're actually for. They've got carvings on them. They've got, if you're familiar with anything about the ancient history of like the Sumerians, the Egyptians, they have representation of the handbags that you might have seen being passed from superior beings to the residents of that area. They have those depicted. They've got all kinds of crazy animals on the pillars that are not native to the area anymore. But the most incredible thing is the size of it. The second most incredible thing is, when I say the size, it's about 20% excavated, and it's already enormous. Like if you Google it right now, you're going to see a big complex, lots of effort put into this structure, and it's only scratching the surface. It's just, they've surveyed it with radar, and it's enormous. But then the most interesting part to me is that it was filled in by man. It wasn't that it was abandoned in place. They hid it. They buried it with fill. They intentionally put it below the surface of the earth for preservation reasons. For what, it wasn't just stuff washing in. It was stones. It was stacked. It was somebody was putting it under there for a reason, but we don't know what that reason is. And Graham Hancock.
Can we talk about that for a second? Why would a civilization bury a city?
I mean, that's a big guess. If you knew that the end of your civilization was coming and you were going to abandon where you lived, but you said maybe one day my children's children will be able to come back here.
That might be a good way to preserve it.
Yeah, I'm going to keep.
Actually, it is, right?
Yeah, I'm going to keep someone else from taking this from my future generations. This is just pure speculation.
No, I think that's a damn good guess. That's a damn good guess. Good as any. I can't really think of a good reason other than, maybe they were just like, oh, there's a flood coming or something catastrophic's about to happen. We have to get out of here, but we want maybe something to come back to. 100, 200 years down the road, we need to do that. Like, can you imagine, like, convincing your civilization, like who was governor or president of Göbekli Tepe, you know, and going, all right, let's fill this sucker in, all of it. We got to get out of here.
Yeah.
And everybody's like,
wheels up.
Okay, sure. Grab a shovel. Let's do it. That's wild, dude. That's wild. What do you say,
Trauma was fresh on that civilization's mind because they had just come out of the last ice age. So there was a catastrophic event that's referred to as the Younger Dryas period, and it's basically a time where an extinction event, I guess we could call it. The Younger Dryas event that occurred where there's a fine black mat that basically surrounds a third of the planet. And if you dig down in like the North American continent where the ice sheets weren't, you'll find this mat, and it expands over to Europe. It's enormous. So that civilization had just made it through one of the most traumatic experiences of human history. And there's speculations from Robert Schoch thinking it was a coronal mass ejection that basically came from the sun and blasted the earth with solar energy, to Graham Hancock, who is working with Randall Carlson to determine if there was a giant meteorite impact on the North American glacial sheets that would have basically reset the clock for humanity at that point. Like, I can't remember how big they expect the meteor to be, but it would have been enormous, and it would have shocked the world, and no one would not have been impacted by it. And that's exactly the same time when the megafauna on the North American continent also vanished. So if it's taken out native fauna that have lived for so long, I don't know how long they lived, but imagine what it would do to our civilization now. If we get a cold,
oh my God,
think about what happens. Our civilization is going to be one of the easiest ones to wipe off the face of the earth because we're not self-sufficient. We're not a sustainable civilization.
We're also not very organized.
And we can't even get along on Twitter.
Yeah, we can't even get along on Twitter. I can't imagine going to New York City. All right, everybody, we got to cover everything with pebbles and rocks to make sure we got something to come back to. Everybody like, get the fuck out of here. You know, like it wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen. But Skyhawk with a $20 donation. I'm sorry, rather, were you going to say something? Yeah, you were. What do you got?
Oh yeah, no, just it sounds like maybe like a burial of a city, right? Like you realize that your civilization is dead, and you do your same burial rituals to the city as you might a human.
Dude, it's a possibility. Obviously, I can't knock it, right? But it seems to me like, man, that seems like a waste of time because you got to get to safety, right? Like you got to get the hell out of there. Whereas, can you imagine if that civilization had satellite readings, say, and they knew that a huge coronal mass ejection was coming or some sort of cataclysmic meteorite or something, and they had 2 or 3 years to plan this mass migration and covering of their cities so they can meet in a place, you know, that could be it's fun to think about. Worst case scenario, right? I mean, that's just cool. Not really. It's terrible. It's terrible, but it is cool to think about that could be why.
Yeah. It's also fun to think about here is Starhawk 88's question of, 5 extinction events. Why can't the visitors be time travelers from our past? I think that's a really interesting theory, right? Like we know that traveling into the future is a lot easier than traveling into the past.
Right.
And if some past civilization figured out near light speed travel, maybe they're just zooming around and visiting us when they think all the dust has settled.
Yeah.
So one of my TikToks that I recently made was based on a article that came out on discover.com, and they basically boiled down why would it be more likely that a past civilization would be hidden from us. And he broke it down into let's put the Earth's existence on a 24-hour clock. Complex life came about 3 hours ago. Our industrial age, our industrial era has only lasted a thousandth of a second.
Right.
So in the 3 hours since complex life has evolved, we are just a blip. We came fast and hard, and we could vanish. What's to say that the time that has elapsed since then that is not hiding some additional civilizations that have peaked, gone away, and then the earth has swallowed them back up through erosion and tectonic plate movements. So there's a chance there, and maybe that's something that has occurred in the past where they said, hey, we are on the brink, we need to go in the earth, go off the earth, like we're considering now. Maybe that's thoughts that have occurred back in the past as well. And to me, that's when when Lou Elizondo's comments about what does it mean to be a man or a human, what's the difference between mankind and mankind's. So there is a distinct possibility that civilizations occurred long ago that we're not aware of, that we are somewhat related to, which could potentially explain their interest in us. And I mean, I hate talking about the subject because I'm so bad about the details of it, but the abduction and the reproductive overtones of some of them, and that gets you to, well, if they're related to us, those make sense.
Right.
Yeah. I'm really interested in the field of exoarchaeology. Because, the Earth, as you mentioned, erosion and, the plates, the tectonic plates, things won't stay around forever here on Earth. But on Mars and the moon, where there isn't plate tectonics, if there was a civilization that went there and put some artifacts down, they'll still be there. And we might be able to find them if we start digging around those areas.
What's the monolith that Buzz Aldrin has talked about? I can't remember the name of the moon that it's on.
Yeah, I think that's our moon, I believe. But I think that is just a geographic structure. At least that was my reading of his, when he references a monolith. I don't think he actually is meaning a 2001 type monolith.
I thought it was one of the Mars moons, and it'll hit me in a little bit, but I think that's one of the things he's brought up. But yeah, there's a possibility that we'll find something in Phobos. Yeah. So there's a possibility we'll find something else out there. We're opening the aperture of our capabilities and what it means to be alive, and our capabilities to investigate, do the exo architecture, archaeology like you're describing.
Real quick, before we get the Kooky Nick's $5 super chat, Pat Calabria said some scientists say the Earth was rebooted 3 times, which is I feel like it's been rebooted way more than 3 times, right? Like it's been floating around in space as an actual planet for 20-30 million years. Is that right? Or was that, or billion?
I think longer than that. Yeah.
Billion years. Like I love how Neil deGrasse Tyson says, and you kind of touched on this, Dan, like this thing we're doing right now is if you broke all of time down on a calendar, January through December, all of humankind would be the last second of the last day, on the calendar right before the ball drops. Like we are nothing. We're less than the blink of an eye in the total existence of things. Oh, you got a little visitor. Kooky Nick with a $5 donation. It's more likely that it was filled in because of a failure in religion of the time. Try to pray away your cataclysm. That's an interesting thought. What do you think of that, Rather?
Yeah, I mean, religion does drive people to do some unusual things, right? And
I mean, you know what movie I loved? Apocalypto. When they went, those Mayan structures that they had, and some of them were just like straight up used for cutting heads and letting heads roll down the stairs. Like, yeah, man, religion pushes people to do some pretty wild stuff. There's no doubt. Damn, yeah, I like that theory. Everybody is saying Phobos, monolith on Phobos. Phobos monolith. Yeah, dude.
That's why we love the live chat. Keeping us honest on the ball.
Dude, okay. So we've hit the top of the hour. We've got another guest that's going to be joining us here for the last hour of the show. But before we get to that, let's go ahead and play a little message from our sponsor. I'm going to tell you all right now, all of these wonderful people would not be here without Patreon supporters like you. If you enjoy credible news, reviews, and commentary on UFOs and UAPs 5 days a week, you want to support this show. What's your name? Marty. Marty, look how easy this is, Marty. Pick up your phone. Boom, you're a Patreon member. I mean, look, it's so easy. You just click the link, which is right here. Just for $1 a month, you can support this show. Just fill out the information and pledge what's comfortable for you. It could be $1, $5, $10, or who knows. Just support. All right, everybody loves Marty. I love that. That's a thing that everybody looks forward to. I love that commercial exists and that you guys love it. Okay, so let's get on with the second part of this conversation. And Dan, we're going to go on a couple of more of your questions, and we're going to have our buddy of the show, MP, join us, and then we're going to get into this this thing that MP warned us was going to happen months ago. And here we are, and we'll get to it. But I want to get to Dan's maybe a question or two if we can, and then we're going to hit up your letter because I definitely want to acknowledge and show everybody that because I think it's really cool. So what's the next thing you got, Dan? And by the way, welcome everybody, MP. MP, say hello. Oh, can we hear you? No, we can't hear you. It's hello? Nope, no sound. All right, here we go. Technical difficulties on the computer expert. This doesn't look good. This doesn't look good.
Clearly, China's involved here.
Absolutely.
We're good, guys. I'll let. I think this is NP's first time on our show. He was on the Singularity Lab. So he's going to give you a little brief history on what he does. It's a lot of cybersecurity work, essentially. Can't give you too many details. What do you got? Hello? Nothing. Let me see. Okay, you're not on mute, so I know it's not that. So while he figures that out, let's get to your next question, Dan, and then we'll introduce NP when we get another break here.
All right, this one is another one that's a broad. It can result in a broad range of responses. The extraterrestrial hypothesis is the easiest explanation to wrap your mind around, but it has its own flaws and shortcomings. If the UFO community focuses on the ETH, it could possibly impede us from more quickly discovering the actual truth or truths about the phenomenon. What other potential explanations should we be focused on, and where should we be looking further?
Okay. You know what I'm going to do, Dan? Please don't hate me. Can you give us that question one more time?
Oh, man.
Give it to because we were trying to figure out his audio.
Okay.
And it came through halfway.
Thank you, Dan.
Sorry. My brain
I wasn't paying attention to anything.
All right. Yeah. Welcome, MP.
Sorry, Dan. Please, can you just give me the same exact thing you just said?
Not the exact thing. I'll give you a paraphrase version of it. Everybody comes into this topic thinking ET, thinking extraterrestrial aliens are coming vast distances to get here and mess with us and then go back. But if that's what we're focused on, there's a big potential that just like if we started digging down 5,000 years back in the dirt, we wouldn't see what's 10,000 years back in the dirt if we stopped at that. So if we stop at the extraterrestrial hypothesis, we're going to miss something. What is it that you guys think? And Exo-Academian is another advocate for we're dealing with a mixed bag of origins for this. Burlington Rasmussen-Hoff, I can't remember his name on Twitter, has put an excellent infographic together lining up the different hypotheses that are out there. If we aren't going with the ET, what would you guys want to explore deeper into, and how would you do that?
Can I answer that?
Go for it.
Yeah, I saw a post on UFO Reddit the other day that was TLDR, not TLDR whatsoever, of Luel Zondo's and Tom Long's recent like over the past years what they've said, right, and what they believe, quote unquote, in the Monroe Institute and things like that. I don't know if that has any credit. I have no clue. I have my own experiences. I have, government confirmed information, and that's pretty much it. That's the only two things that I can put terra firma in, right? Mm-hmm. So government experiences, cloudy footage, yada yada. I mean, some crazy craft, whatever. I've had my own experiences where I've seen things, both in, I'm based out in New York. So I've seen things in Lower Manhattan, and I've seen things out of my apartment in like the Newark area, Newark, New Jersey. So do I have any credence towards what's that actually? No, absolutely not. I have no fucking clue what those things were that I saw. I have no clue what everyone else is seeing. It could be extra dimensional. It could be, just regular craft. But based on my own experiences, I have no idea. And based off of what's been disclosed publicly, I don't think any of us have a good idea about what we're actually dealing with.
Yeah. So you bring up an interesting point that I'd like to pick your brain on. You live in New York. Are you in the city limits? Are you in the heart of a major metropolitan area?
So my apartment is on I'm on the border of Newark, New Jersey, Newark. And the way my apartment faces and everything, like basically from where my desk sits, I watch Newark Airport, which is a major airport in the United States. I watch planes departing and leaving every single day. And like I could literally, like, while I'm doing work at my desk, if I work from home, sometimes I go into the office in the city, I can't really see the same things, but like I'm watching planes all day. And I have the blinds open, yeah.
So there are stories of encounters with two individuals where one individual will see an object and the other individual won't see it, or they'll see something different. So you're in a major metropolitan area. If you're seeing something and New York UAP, I forgot what Andy. You. He's in New York. He's had a sighting. In those metropolitan areas, how come there's not mass sightings? If one person is seeing the craft, how come there's not thousands of people seeing
it's direction. I mean, like, I look at probably like less than a quarter of a slice of the sky from my direction of my desk, right? So like I have two windows literally right behind. So I'm looking at the camera right now, and right behind me is two windows that look at the airport and the area, right? Like I see the Newark City skyline. I can upload posts of like, exactly where my like view is. But I mean, it's a slice of the sky, right? Like, and for all intents and purposes, I don't look at New York, not from this area. No, I used to live in Hoboken, where you're on the Jersey City, Jersey border of the New York area, the New York City metro area. So yeah, if you look in a certain direction at any point in time, you're going to see the same sky box, if you will, quote unquote, of the city. But it doesn't mean it's rough. I mean, it's hard. You'd expect if a UAP appeared over the middle of like Lower Manhattan, everyone would have a picture of it, right? Like I think that all the time. I look on UFO Twitter, I look on UFO Reddit, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is a report from like the Bronx or so and so. Like there should be more images. You got to realize, like, a lot of people in the city live inside apartments. They're not looking at the sky. There's light pollution. I was walking around with my friend the other day, and there was what do you call it? Like for a feature film, they have like they have lights on the ground that like go like this. Yeah, they have spotlights. So like you have things like that going off on the area all the time, right? It's like it's very difficult to pick up anything that's outside like the very lower crucify me if I'm wrong here, the stratosphere, the lower regions of like cloud coverage and like above that in the city. I mean, it's very difficult. I grew up towards like the Jersey Shore side, like people have watched like the stereotypical Jersey Shore shows. That's where I grew up, born and raised. You could see stars down there. You could see if something's moving in a weird way that's not typical. You can watch constellations night over night over night, and they're there. Where I'm currently at, which is about an hour and a half north towards the city area, you can't see that stuff. So, I mean, it's different where you live, but I mean, it's not as like, oh, there's a UFO over New York. There should be 100,000 people, 1 million people with footage of this. You're in an apartment. What are you going to do? Like, peer out?
Not like that. I mean, even when you're on the ground, the buildings are so high, you only get a little slice of the sky. I mean, if you're looking down an avenue, you get a pinch of the sky. It's difficult.
I mean, the Phoenix Lights, right? That was a mass sighting. I think that there is a real thing above a metropolitan area. You're going to see a lot of people reporting it.
Yeah, but like even then, like Luis, what you're saying, like even depending on what blocks you're walking in the city, these buildings next to you are like, that's my favorite thing to do. I love looking up at buildings. I love looking at like the history of buildings in New York. It's one of my favorite things to do, just as someone who lives in the area.
Yeah.
You can't see the sky XYZ, like certain paths, because there's giant buildings passing you. Maybe you're walking home. There could be a UAP next door, literally right next to you, and you couldn't tell because there's this giant building there.
Right.
And on top of that, there's a culture, and this is one of several things I don't like about living in this area, is that most people up here, they're not looking up. They're looking at their phones, or they're looking at the ground where they're walking. They're not going to make eye contact with anyone else. Yeah, and then you get into the so I take 2 trains. Actually, I take 1 train to get back to my apartment from the commute. I'm at a World Trade Center, the Lower Manhattan area. I take the PATH train that connects New Jersey and New York. That's it, and everyone is just staring at their phones or whatever. I don't like pulling my. We can get into that with security stuff, but like, I will not put in my password on a public train because there's cameras and other things around me and other people watching me. So like, I'm just looking around the entire time, but that's it. Typically people looking down, like part of our commute, you're outside, you could look up, you could look at the sky. People don't. I try to do because I've had experiences and I don't look at my phones during my commutes, but
I used to take the R train or the Q train to Astoria, Queens when I lived there, and that was above ground. And then once you get to Queensboro Plaza, it goes underground. But I would always look at the sky when I was above ground in the train, and I wouldn't start reading my book or looking at my phone until I went underground when there was nothing else left to see. But real quick, a $5 donation from A Wave Soul. Thank you so much. The simulation hypothesis is pretty compelling.
What's up, Nathan?
Oh, you know Nathan?
Yeah, he was on CAD with us yesterday.
Oh, okay. Is that who that is?
Yes.
Oh, right on. Okay, I didn't know that was his handle on YouTube. Welcome, Nathan, dude. It's good to have you here.
I'm still waiting for an explanation as to what that means. I don't know, but I can recognize that icon anywhere.
With the simulation hypothesis?
No, the little marble he has is his profile pic.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, dude, thank you for coming. But I mean, what do you guys think of what he's putting out there, the simulation theory? And by the way, I just want to say hi to Mick West. He's in the house. So is Jeremy McGowan. What's up, McGowan? Good to have you guys here. Tina Tomaszewski, our moderator, and then where's Mick? I saw Mick in here somewhere. He was saying something. Okay. Oh, you pulled it up. Sorry, rather. Millions of possible witnesses, meaning the likelihood that one person will be the only witness, is vanishingly small and effectively zero if they have multiple sightings.
Yeah, it's all fun and games. I mean, I literally watch planes take off of an airport every single day, and I've taken pictures. And yeah, we're all normal people, right? It's like, I got a pretty up-to-date phone. It's got the lenses and the zoom and the whatever, right? Like, I take a picture of a plane, it looks like a bird flying in the sky.
Right. Yeah.
We don't have gear. We don't have actual gear that people who've confirmed UAPs are real record these things on.
Well, I think the gear exists. The gear exists. It's just nobody's carrying it. And not a lot of people use the gear that does exist to really focus their attention on this part of the discussion.
But like, I'm talking about like Fravor stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, you got like weapon systems, stuff that costs billions of dollars, stuff that we complain. Like I'm a progressive in my political leaning, and my point of view bashes on the insane fucking, excuse my language, spending that we do with defense. It's insane. It's literally insane how much we spend on defense. Like, you could end poverty like 1,000 times over for the price of the F-35 project, right?
Right.
So, like, I approach it from that view, but it's like, I don't know.
Well, I think Mick was saying that, if there's, our eyes are sensors, right? If there's something over New York City and there's millions of people there, I agree with Mick that there would be more than one witness for an event like that.
But again, I will beckon back to those points I took where there's certain angles you can't see
but there's
everything.
Millions of people, right? Like,
but it's a culture. But you gotta recognize it's a culture where everyone is looking down. Like, I'm a active participant in the anti-social media movement. Like, I haven't been on Facebook, Instagram, yada yada, since it's probably 9 going on 10 years now, right? So, like, I don't look at my phone. I have my music. I double click my earbud to go. I don't look at my phone. Everyone else is looking down all the time, right? You have that factor. You have the vector factor, which you're walking down a particular street at a particular time, so you're not looking up. Right?
Are we saying that there are UAPs and stuff that are going over these big metropolitan areas and there's no one's noticing it? Like,
well, let me put it to you this way: if DoD systems were picking these up on a regular basis, but they don't have an incentive to inform us, and the public is walking around every day looking down, would we know?
I don't believe that's the case, but yeah, they probably wouldn't tell us.
I think it's a good question, but there's got to be. I mean, I've lived in New York City for 7-8 years, and I agree with you. The culture is very much looking down at their phone, but there's so many people in that city that don't live in the city that don't have those obstructions. Like, I was in Astoria Park every day, and so people go to the park. There's millions of people.
Hello. You understand the layout of the city where you're next to a building, you literally can't see anything to the right of the skyline.
But there's people in those buildings looking out the windows and stuff as well.
But they can only see particular areas of the sky, and even then, our culture has adopted a sense of don't look up, look down. Right. That's what I'm trying to say. We don't look up, we look down. We look at screens, we look at phones, we look at the thing that's drawing us in. We don't really look up. So I'm just saying there could be activity over the city. I have no clue. I mean, I've had my personal experiences in this area near an airport, but if there was those activities going on, would people recognize them? Maybe some. But I'm saying that like our culture is literally predisposed to ignore or not look into areas where they would be affected by those experiences.
That's fair to say. I mean, a lot of people are distracted by gadgets and technology. You know, go ahead, Red Dan. What do you say?
I got to throw this in there. Ben and Joe at UFO Garage cracked me up one time because they said the answer to the UFO problem is to reintroduce pterodactyls onto Earth, because if there's pterodactyls, everybody's looking up all the time. There's the incentive.
I would be.
That's brilliant. That's a great idea. As a matter of fact, that should be an initiative of a senator or congressman.
They're trying to repopulate Siberia with woolly mammoths. Have you seen that?
I have seen that. Yeah. I mean, if we could bring back the woolly mammoth, by God, let's find the pterodactyl DNA and let's do that.
Yeah, there's got to be some eggs and some amber rosin somewhere around here, right?
That would be terrifying. I mean, just be careful what you ask for.
Oh yeah.
Hey, you know how much a pterodactyl T-bone steak would be?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wonder if dinosaur would taste good. I'm assuming it would taste
like
an alligator.
Chicken. Yeah, you're right, Dan. Yeah. Right?
It wouldn't taste good, but it would taste good because it was rare.
Right. Exactly. All right, Dan. So what else you got?
No, I think that's all. I just wanted to say, hey, Mick, appreciate you. Make me so mad sometimes, but man, I appreciate you and your contributions to this community.
Yeah, I mean, if he's making you mad, it's probably because he's challenging the way you think. That's usually when I get upset with Mick. I get upset, and then I'm like, and then I come to the realization, okay, he's probably right. He's probably right on this one. But even, and he said on this show, I love reminding people of this, he hasn't debunked David Fravor and Alex Dietrich. He hasn't. He just hasn't. And he's admitted that. He's got a decent idea of what he thinks it could be, but he, especially I think after he talked to Alex Dietrich, he hasn't debunked it. So, he's open to the idea, but he just needs to see the evidence. He needs to see multiple angles is the thing that he said would change his mind pretty quickly, or at least start getting him thinking in that direction. So he's open to it. He's got to see the data, but I wonder what would happen to his book. I am curious if that turned out, if he got, I want to see this day. I want to see this day that he gets two angles of a craft from a verified DOD source. And it does show something absolutely wild where the math just does go off the charts. I just want to see his face when it happens. Mick, if it does happen, will you please come on my show first? because I'd love to reveal that day on our show. So, it'll probably never happen if you think your math is right. It should never, ever happen. So you should be able to take the bet.
People accuse Mick of being in this for the money, right? Like, can you imagine if Mick found that out? He would write another book talking about how he, found out about the UFOs, and it'd be a huge
But do you think in any part of that book he would say, I was wrong?
I bet he would.
You think he would? I think he would.
I feel like he would.
Or his thinking process was wrong. Because again, he's not labeling it.
Yeah, there's nothing you can really say that he'd be wrong about, right?
Right. No, that's true. But he is pretty cheeky. He is pretty cheeky.
That's why we love him, right?
He'd sneak it in the footnotes.
I think for him to be like, okay, I got to eat some crow. My thinking was wrong on this, is what I'd like to hear. But who knows when we ever get that confession? But man, I hope it's on this show. That would be a fun day. Okay, so Dan, let's get real quick to your letter response here, which I thought was fun. I want to make sure I don't show anybody's email here. So give me a second, guys. All right, so here it is. I'm going to read it for you. And can I ask you, did you construct your own letter when you were talking about when you sent Senator Haggerty, or did you happen to use one of our templates? Just curious.
So I'd like to do the handwritten letter to him, and that's even what Tim Burchett said would be impactful to him. So I just wrote a quick one to him and basically expressed my interest in it and let him know, hey, I've heard these. I think it was not the NDAA, it was the IAIA, or I can't remember what the Senate version of the House bill was that it went through. That had just gone through. And so that was what I was pinging up. I was like, hey, I saw this on there. Yeah. You're a senator. I believe he's on one of the committees. And I said, I think you're going to receive briefings based on this bill. I just want you to be aware of it and let me know if there's anything I can do for you. And just wanted to voice my interest in it.
And okay, so let me read the response real quick, and then I'm curious to see which committees he serves, because I think he's on a defense committee if memory serves correctly. But dear Mr. Warren, thank you for taking the time to contact me about unidentified aerial phenomenon. Let me also see if I can. Yeah, there we go. So you guys can read along with me. Or UAP. I always appreciate hearing from Tennesseans, and I take your thoughts seriously. In June 2021, the Office of Director of National Intelligence released an unclassified report to the Senate providing an overview of the challenges posed by UAP. This report included a plan for developing meaningful policies to counter any actionable threat posed by UAP as well. While evidence and reporting on UAP is still preliminary and limited in scope, the safety of the U.S. citizens and the preservation of the U.S. national security interests will always be at the highest priority for me as your senator. Please know that you should keep. Please know that you should. That should the Senate consider legislation related to UAP during the 117th Congress, I will keep your thoughts closely in mind. Thank you again for writing. I encourage you to continue following my efforts to serve all Tennesseans and to provide feedback. Please accept my best wishes. Sincerely, Bill Haggerty. I mean, this doesn't look like a boilerplate response.
No, that was what was shocking to me. It was like someone in his office. I assume that they don't know everything that's going on, that this is a staffer that was writing this, but they had to look into it. So just writing them this letter at least made them look into it. So, I consider it a win.
I almost think he wrote this.
I'd like to believe that.
I almost do, man. I mean, like, the idea that he, please know that should Senate consider legislation related to UAP during the 117th Congress, I will keep your thoughts closely in mind. Yeah, I don't think this is a staffer, man. If I had to take a guess, I mean, it's a digital signature. Either maybe a staffer wrote it and he signed it digitally after he read it. But the feeling I get reading this is he actually wrote it. I mean, what are your thoughts, Rather? First of all, this is awesome.
Yeah, this is awesome. I almost hope that it is a form letter, that he's getting so much emails and questions about this that they had to create their own form letter response to all these questions. But that's probably not the case. My guess is it probably was a staff writer and that Bill read it over and signed his name, but I don't really have a lot of insight into how those things work.
Well, I think it's also interesting that he points out safety and national security as his highest priority, which goes to if we don't, it's not like the threat narrative is overblown, in my opinion. It's the language that they speak. It's the language that gets their attention. That's why I think it's not even a threat narrative. It's a potential threat. That's what I think is important about that phrase. It's because it gets the attention of the government, because of the safety, the relationship it has to the safety of the constituents.
Everybody's like, Lewis, put down your bath salts. It's just a generic response. And maybe I'm wrong. I'm open to being wrong on that. But
it'd be pretty fun to be an intern or someone being able to write on behalf of a senator like this.
Dude, man, it's. I mean, I'd be a little worried about sending a response like this without running it by him. That's just me. I mean, I don't know. He's not revealing anything in here, but I think, Dan, you do hit something well, that they don't pay attention to it. Just out of curiosity, what did your letter say?
I'll be honest, that was many moons ago, and I can't remember exactly. I think it was cued by the Senate bill that was passed that had the 90-day report requirements that were associated with it. So I think I had looked up, hey, you're on this committee, which means that you're going to be receiving this briefing every 90 days. I want to say that's what I wrote, but like I said, it's been so long. It feels like it's been so long. There's been a lot of water under the bridge since then.
All right, let me take a look at his website and see what committees he serves on, because I think I'm just curious, just out of my own curiosity, but I would assume you put something in there with the verbiage of, you being on this committee, you have the responsibility to know about this and to, sort of talk on it. And I encourage you to look into it. I think that could be a good reason. It's a handwritten letter, like those are things that that work. That's for sure. Hold on a second, guys. I'm looking at committee assignments. Here we go. Bill Haggerty. All right, it's loading up. Just give me a second, you guys. Let's see. Do we have? Oh, did we lose MP?
Looks like it. He's got some other.
Okay. Yep. Oh, damn. Something must have come up because we wanted to talk to him about the security stuff. But that's okay. We can keep on trucking on this. Okay. So U.S. Senate Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs. U.S. Senate Committee on Foreign Relations. That could be part U.S. Senate Committee on Appropriations, which, by the way, guys, military, construction, veteran affairs related agencies, state foreign operations and related programs, commerce, justice, science, and related agencies. So that could be a big rules and administration committee. I think appropriations would probably be the one that would be looking at it. Foreign relations committee. I don't think the Foreign Relations Committee would have a whole bunch of
scroll down. I think it's the 3C. I want to say up a little bit. The very last one on there. What does that say? Subcommittee on something. Never mind. Now I see South Asia on there. That's
okay. Yeah. No, this is the one I think that is relevant. The U.S. Committee on Appropriations. Because appropriations dives into, like I said, energy and water, interior, environment, and related agencies, military, construction, veteran affairs, and related agencies. State foreign operations is one that is interesting to me, and related programs. But you've got commerce, justice, science, and related agencies as well. But that's
maybe I just asked him if he saw the June 25th report. Yeah. Maybe that's all I said. I don't remember.
No, that's okay. But it's good to know sort of, now we know what committees he serves on. And if you were to write him, you could bring up this subcommittee or the Committee on Appropriations and say, hey, you guys are responsible for science and related energies and energy and foreign operations and related programs and military constructions and related agencies. I think you have a responsibility to look at this information because all of those things I just listed are assets, foreign and domestic. And these are assets that could be threatened by the existence of UAP. So please,
I think there's also a way to back into the names of the people on the committees that will receive the briefing by going to the bill. And it usually says the report will be submitted to the appropriate committees. Right. And then usually in the definition section of that section, it'll say appropriate committees are defined as, and then they list them. So that's what they did in the H.R. 4350 that I'm more familiar with, but I can't remember exactly how they laid it out for the Senate version of that bill.
I'm curious to know. I think they could also, any committee can request it. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. I think they give it out initially, like you said, to the related committees. But if there is another committee that starts catching wind of this or is like, hey, why didn't we get this briefing? We'd like to see it as well. Who knows? It could get to a fervor point where those other committees that really have nothing to do with this topic start asking for it. And if we're there, that's a good place to be. Because again, we keep going back to, Mark Walker. I keep going back to Mark Walker because he's part of the Terrorism and Counterintelligence Committee. Like that's a brand new committee that I don't think anybody knew or heard about as far as being interested in this topic. So it's a win. It's a huge win.
Mark Walker or Mark Warner?
Walker.
Okay, I'm not familiar with him.
Yeah, so Mark Walker, he came out in late September. And he was one of the he came out publicly and said that we need to take this subject more seriously and that we need to pose these questions to certain agencies within the government and try and get answers on this very real problem. Are you looking that up right now, rather?
Yeah, I think you are right about that. North Carolina.
Yes, that sounds right. But yeah, I always thought, well, are you sure it's not Mark Warner? No, we're not talking about Mark Warner. Yeah. We're talking about Mark Walker on the, again, Terrorism and Counterintelligence Subcommittee. And I don't want to paraphrase here because I think you should check it out because you'd be very interested.
Absolutely.
Do you have the article there, Dan, or rather?
I was just looking.
Okay, see if you can find it. We'll pull it up and maybe we can read parts of it. But I just want to say, dude, that's awesome work. Like that's amazing. You know, like
it's easy too. That's the
easy.
interesting part of it. You just write a letter. It takes 30 minutes to an hour to write something down and wait. That's all you got to do.
Right. Or even again, like if you don't have the time, which is totally understandable, again, go to our website, thebigphonehome.com. We've got templates there that you can print out. And if you want to handwrite, copy it, and then sign it, go for it. You know, you want to make it shorter, you want to personalize it, go for it. The template is there for you guys to use. And just because we're not doing the Big Phone Home doesn't mean you can't use the website. And I know Ben just had a baby, right?
I don't know if that thing's popped out yet, but it's
it was close, or I know he was on, I think, some kind of leave, and I didn't want to bother him with it because he'd worked so hard on the website. But he's also going to be getting templates that Dan Zetterstrom and the UAP Media UK guys put together for Parliament. So we're also going to have Parliament templates on there for you guys. So now it's officially an international effort. But if you don't want to wait, just go to UAP Media UK. They have the templates there already. I'm just going to put a link on our website so you guys can also link up on that end. But I didn't want to bother Ben because he did so much great work for us. And
so the UK involvement as well as the other countries like Amsterdam with Max and Ross with Australia. Yep. That is to me one of the most fascinating parts of this community. Is it is a global community. Like it's been a good time just getting to meet people from other countries that now if I go somewhere, I could be like, dude, I'm coming to your place. I'm coming to hang out with you. Let's have a pint.
Yeah. I'd be more interested in just a place to stay because I'm so cheap. I hate paying for hotels. But yeah, no, you're right, dude. I mean, like it would be cool, man, if we were in a place where we could take a show trip to next year's conference in Italy. Because I'd like to see what goes down next year in that conference. In San
I also
Marino.
wonder if the international involvement is going to make the United States go, well, crap, we don't want to fall behind those guys. We need to up our game and focus on this more. Even Ruben Gallego, who put the verbiage into the HR 4350, said there was a total lack of focus on this issue. If somebody tries to get ahead of us in the game, is the United States going to all of a sudden have laser focus on this issue because of the competition? I wonder if that's why there is that fourth pillar of emphasis with the international engagement that Lou's working on. It puts pressure on the United States from internally and externally.
I think you're right. You know, I think it's a golden opportunity that I just don't understand why the United States doesn't see that way unless they are truly hiding something. And when I say hiding something, I mean nefarious. Like, why wouldn't you be the first on an international stage to be the first to this story, be the first to tell the truth on it? Because it's going to buy you a lot of international leeway when you want to do other things internationally, whether that be shipping ports, whether that be whatever, who knows? Like,
it's just like the first person to the moon, right? The space race. It seems like, be a no-brainer to. I
feel like that's what a world leader should do, right? Should be transparent on these things that people are looking for answers on. But I think we need more of a demand. We need more of a group of people. We need more than UFO Twitter. I don't mean to demise UFO Twitter, but we need millions, hundreds of millions of people going, we want more. We want more information, and emailing and bothering them. But again, like there's, good luck convincing a single mother of three, hey, go contact your senator and ask for more UAP information. She's gonna be like, go kick rocks, get out of here.
Yeah. So the counter argument to that is going to be, as soon as we start to put information out about the technology associated with the phenomena, it's going to be consumed by people that do not like us so much. So until we have it locked down and we understand it fully, we are going to be very cautious in releasing any information at all that could give our competition a leg up to potentially leapfrog us in their understanding of that technology. And think about the atomic era when cities sprung up around the country that weren't on maps, but were involved in the Manhattan Project. We were not broadcasting that. We were not saying, hey, look at, we're this close to a bomb, or we're this close to cracking the atom. We were not publicizing that at all until we had it figured out.
But we didn't waste much time before we figured it out.
It's a shame.
We used it.
It's a terrible shame. And one of the biggest embarrassments of being an American citizen, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's a fair statement. Daniel Patton with a $5 donation. Given rumors of reverse engineered UAPs and alternative energy exists that could drastically slow
greenhouse gases,
would connecting these issues spur disclosure?
If it can be taxed.
If it can be taxed, I'm already of the belief that I think the energy exists, the technology is already there, in my opinion. I think a lot of that has to do with nuclear. Nuclear is it's the cleanest option we have. It's
talk about stigma.
Yeah, talk about stigma. It's the absolute cleanest option we have, and it's so good. It's so reliable that they put them in our submarines and aircraft carriers, but for some reason we can't put them in our cities. It doesn't make any sense to me. I think that's world-changing independent technology. We can get off the independence of oil if we had a president that came out and said, we're going to use these technologies, these things that taxpayers have already paid for, to implement these technologies into our infrastructure and get independent of foreign oil. And we're going to be the first on the planet to figure out this nuclear reactor issue. We're going to make it foolproof. We're going to make it 100% safe. So that way future generations don't have to worry about Fukushima or a 3 Mile Island. Like this is not 1965 anymore. We're not making nuclear reactors with fishing string and toilet paper. We're going to put some actual real technology behind it and make it the number one priority for this country. And you'll see the technology in 5 years if somebody took that initiative and was actually serious about getting greenhouse gases under control, and get not only that, but maybe even stabilizing the world. Like if we're the first country that could figure that out, you could bet your bottom dollar there's going to be other progressive thinking leaning countries that are going to ask us for the patents, or going to ask us for the tech, and they have to pay for those things, and we have to teach them how to implement those things because we'll be the leaders on how to do it. But we're sitting on our hands. So I don't know if UAP technology is made reality tomorrow. I'm not convinced that our government would be like, there we go, there's our energy oil crisis solver. I just don't think they do it, because like Dan said, if you can't monetize it, like they're not interested in putting it out there. What do you got, Rather?
I think you would nuclear, fusion or fission. I think that you would be able to monetize, because it's not like
you could put a meter on it.
Yeah. Like if there is some free energy that, let's say you swirl a spoon in some water a certain way, and suddenly that creates electricity. It's something that anyone could do in their house. Then I think maybe you are into some conspiratorial situation where people would want to stomp on that. But yeah, nuclear fusion, nuclear fission, I think, yeah, you have to have a big reactor, a big investment, and people are going to be making money off of that.
Well, you hit on something there. That's exactly right. Like, I mean, there are people that have figured out how to live off the grid in a popularized area, for example, suburban neighborhood, but they figured out how to provide electricity to their homes without the grid, without the city, and the city immediately comes in and shuts that shit down. Like they're like, no, you're gonna pay bills, you're gonna pay us for this power. And again, like I just don't think we have the political structure in place to really save the world from an energy perspective. I think both of those options should be available to citizens of this country, especially. Like, I think our tax dollars should go into research and development. How do we power our big cities, roads, highways, cars off of a clean, renewable energy source? And how do we let homeowners become independent of this system that is destroying our planet. I mean, just the other day we had a pipeline explode off of the coast of California that killed a whole sanctuary of birds. Like it's at what point do we say enough? At what point do we stomp our feet, or fists into the air and say, this has got to stop? I don't know if we're interested in that. Like that takes weekends, that takes time. That means you can't go to that barbecue that you want to go to, or celebrate your birthday or your wedding anniversary or accomplishments. It means you got to go protest. You got to get some elbow grease in that conversation. And I just don't know. I mean, this is now turning into a political philosophy conversation, but I just don't know if we're there. Like, I just don't know. I hope we would be, but I just don't think we are. I'm a little pessimistic on it.
So this is the beauty of the UFO subject to me, is it impacts everything. I'm not going to be able to quote him exactly, but I think he says it affects everyone. Lou says it affects everyone, but everyone differently. Like every topic is going to be impacted by disclosure. Every topic is going to be impacted by the technology that comes along with it, the reflection on what it means to be a human that comes along with it. Just the understanding that we are not alone in the universe is going to change a lot of things for us. And it impacts everybody, but it impacts everybody differently.
Yeah. Jean-Francois Chalabois with a $69.99 donation. Thank you so much. About nuclear energy, how can we guarantee a long-term safety of nuclear wastes? I think that's a wonderful question. I truly go for it. Rather, what are you gonna say?
Well, I think with fission, that's certainly a problem, right? Because that creates nuclear waste, and what are you going to do with that? You got to store it somewhere. Right. But fusion is completely clean, right? And there's recently been some breakthroughs on, we can do fusion, but we just can't harvest energy from fusion. Can't get more energy out than we get back in. But I think that that might be starting to change, and if we can crack that, that literally is free, clean energy forever.
Well, imagine if you took the budget for dark matter and you put it into this. Like, I think even if you have a nuclear waste, if you develop this for, say, 2 or 3 centuries and you perfect the technology, I think you'll get to a point where either A, the waste will not be created, or B, you can figure out a way to harness and use the waste.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's like thorium reactors are kind of that. Mm-hmm. They use like reduced, nuclear waste to actually power stuff, and their waste.
Even all of that nuclear waste that is produced, it fits in 5 landfills, combined. Whereas we have hundreds of, I God knows how many landfills there are in the United States, and where this garbage is going to, and it's endless. So 5 football fields worth of nuclear waste. I feel like there's somewhere on the planet we could store this stuff that would be safe.
Yeah. Not in my backyard, says everyone.
Says everyone, right? Yeah, and that's fair. But I mean, there's a lot worse things in your backyard than nuclear waste. I think in some cases, some factories are poisoning your water. Some factories are giving you cancer through the air. I mean, just in California on the port right here in Long Beach, people were getting cancer for some reason, lung cancer specifically, in the Long Beach area for 30, 40 years. And they finally figured out that it was these boats, these ships that were coming into harbor, and they were putting carcinogens into the air. And so the rate of cancer was a lot higher in that neighborhood. So what do? They put restrictions on the boats, and then that helped the issue, but you can't put those restrictions on the international boats, primarily the Chinese boats. Those things just do not follow regulation whatsoever. But it's, those are the things that it just takes time to change them. And I think a younger generation, once we really start taking over the halls of power, truly start taking control of it, I think Barack Obama was like the first sort of chess move that the younger generation had as far as trying to take power from this boomer and Generation X generation and start to put the policies and the ways we think into these halls of power. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the presidential race here in the next 2 or 3, not 2 or 3 years, but 2 to 3 terms. And don't be surprised if it gets a little younger, a little more progressive. and these things start becoming common conversation, you know. But I mean, like, you guys want to have your mind blown, go listen to Ralph Nader do the debates in 1996, and I believe 92. Ralph Nader was also had his nose in the politics, and also he might have even gotten into it in 99 with Al Gore. Go look at those debates. They're brilliant. Everything that's wrong with this country now, he was saying 30 years ago, like 25, 30 years ago. He was talking about infrastructure. He was talking about energy independence. He was talking about cleaning up the environment, and reducing, greenhouse gases. He was talking about all of these things, and everybody's like, "You're crazy, Ralph. Get out of here, Ralph. You got no place on this platform, Ralph." And it's because it wasn't a friendly message for the pocketbook, for the military, for the oil, for the prison industrial complexes that exist and still do.
For everyone. Like, no one wants to change their behavior of consumption, right? And that's
it's
what
hard.
it would take. Yeah.
It's hard, dude. Like, I couldn't imagine if somebody was like, "Okay, use half your internet." You know?
Yeah. Or no more plane travel for you, right? Like,
right. I mean, like, yeah, it would be tough. But I mean, it's, the one positive thing I think about this pandemic is that it did really sort of show the world, oh, we don't need to get on a plane to go 4 hours to have a meeting like that we could do over the phone. That's one less plane in the air. That's a lot less oil burned. They're a good thing. I remember the first like 6 or 7 months of this pandemic, like there was wildlife coming back to the coves. Whales were showing up and playing like the New York Harbor. Like, it was awesome. It was cool to see. But it's funny how the world had to stop, but it was also interesting how quickly nature was ready to take control of those spaces again. Hey man, it's an interesting discussion. It's one we'll probably start seeing more of in the coming years, hopefully, but yeah, that's my pontification for the day. What do you guys think?
So the big fear that I have for the country going forward is the outsourcing of the manufacturing that we've tried to reduce our pollution by removing the manufacturing from it. Mm-hmm. So that is going to put us in a bind in the future. And you couple that with the lack of skilled tradesmen that we're producing now. Mm-hmm. Who's going to take, even no matter how technologically advanced we are, if we're producing a bunch of code for the rest of the world, someone's going to have to maintain the buildings. Someone's going to have to keep things running. And
electricians, plumbers.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, and those are honorable trades and much needed, but they're also hard. And they're
hard. And they don't pay well.
I'll tell you right now, they are paying better now than you would think they would.
Some of them are.
They deserve it too.
No, they deserve it. Absolutely. I'm not saying they don't. I think it's not. I don't think that's something you hear in a high school. Hey, you could be an electrician and make $120,000 a year.
Everybody's looking at college. Everybody's looking at white collar, but we do not need to neglect our blue collar workers.
Well, here's the thing also about the traditional college format is that it's dying. You can get a college degree online and learn exactly the same thing in a much shorter period of time for a lot cheaper online than you could go into a 4-year college, a brick and mortar college. Like brick and mortar everything, that stuff's just starting to go, especially because they're scamming you. Colleges, universities, I think of football players as the first thing I think of. NCAA football players, especially at these big schools. The billions of dollars in ad revenue that the NCAA makes off of these kids that don't make a dime. They don't make a dime. And then they get hurt and they're done. They don't have the education. They don't have a skill. They don't have anything. I mean, there should be skill trades for these players that they can learn in a college setting, and they should also be paid. They should be able to make money off of their own names. But these institutions, you go into it and you come out of it with $180,000 of debt. Like you spend your first, 15 years of your career paying it off. It's not fair. It's broken. It doesn't work. And I think people are starting to see that. Like, these institutions really aren't as necessary as people think they are. I mean, institutions of learning are absolutely necessary. We need the labs and the science and all of these things are very important to American society and just the world as a whole. We need these institutions, but at the same time, like, it shouldn't cost a kid. These institutions should be as cheap as they possibly could be. It only incentivizes the United States to educate as many people as possible for as cheap as possible. That should be the goal of education, is how smart can we make these people for the cheapest amount, where they can help contribute to the system, but it should almost be free. Like, universities should be free. It's an incentive. It only makes us stronger as a society, as a culture, as a country, as a people. Education should be number one on every political platform, and it should be.
I'll push back on that.
Yeah, please do.
So the best engineers that I've ever met in my life, and I'm an engineer, do not have engineering degrees. They are people that started at the bottom, working as an apprentice, learned a trade, learned a skill, picked up another one, continually educated themselves on their own because they were motivated individuals. Right. That's what our country needs, is motivation.
For sure. But that apprenticeship, they didn't have to pay to do it.
Oh, they got paid.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's my point.
The high school graduate that graduated at the same time that guy that got $180,000 in college debt, that guy's got a house.
Right.
That is half paid off by the time that guy even gets his first job.
That's my point. Like, it should be like, school should be a thing that should pay you to learn. It should pay you to learn, just like a trade. Like, if you want to be a rocket scientist, okay, cool. We're going to put you with a group of rocket scientists so you can learn from the bottom up, but you're also going to build a career. And we're not going to put you in debt to do it. And I think those are the things that are going to propel us to a whole nother level of everything. Intellectualism, spiritualism, humanity. Like, it'll just be good for everyone. But yeah, man, it's fun to think about.
Yeah.
It's fun to think about.
I paid for my first degree, but my company paid for my second degree.
There you go.
That is the way to go. Like, if you can get with a company that is going to try to nurture you, educate you, train you, and give you skills that'll serve you for the rest of your life. Yeah. There needs to be more companies like that. And that's where bringing the manufacturing back to the United States, bringing work back is an important investment in our future and the futures of our kids.
No, that's true. But, we don't have time to talk about this, but maybe next time we'll get into it, is this idea that AI is coming. I just saw a commercial today for robotics, and they put these robots in a White Castle, and they're flipping burgers, and the AI is figuring out when the meat's done and the fries are being put in, and it's so funny. The workers in this commercial are just kind of like with a rag in the background cleaning a counter. Like, it's like they're making a commercial to end their source of income. Like, pretty soon there's not going to be a human at the counter at your McDonald's. It's going to be all AI, and it's going to be mistake free. It's going to be cleaner. It's going to be cheaper for the company to run, but it's also going to put a whole bunch of people on the street that rely on those jobs. And that's something that we're going to have to answer. Like, we have to figure out what to do with those refugees of work, essentially, but yeah, that's a whole nother show. But Dan, dude, thank you for coming.
I'm sorry we didn't talk about UFOs very much.
I thought we did. I thought 75% of the show was about UFOs, right?
It always wanders, man. You start somewhere and it always meanders.
Hey, man, that's what's fun about this show. And that's why I loved that you were coming today, because I knew we were going to get into these. We were going to branch off into conversations, and we get to do that a lot on this show, but sometimes we don't. And I do enjoy when it does happen, because I feel like those are always the best conversations. Patrick Fogarty with a $5 donation. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys and gals, for committing to pressing the government to start working for the people and disclosing the truth. We appreciate it. And please don't leave us hanging. Go to our website, do it for yourself, or write your own letter, or like I said, copy ours. Whatever you got to do, use the tools that we provided in the tool belt. Use Dan's example for inspiration. I mean, if we're your inspiration, great. But just as long as you get out there and you do it yourself, because we can't be the only ones doing it. It's nice to say it, but to do it is a completely different thing. And so we encourage you guys, we implore you guys, please reach out to your local state representatives, express to them your concern on the UAP topic, especially in coordination to whatever committee or subcommittee they serve on. And you'd be surprised. Like we're going to make some noise here. And I think, again, the next 2 or 3 years, man, we should get into this next time you're here. Like, what do we think is going to happen here in the next 2 to 3 years, politically speaking, on the UAP topic? Because I think that's a very, very interesting place to go. But Dan, before you get out of here, where can people find your stuff and your voice?
Find me at Twitter under the handle, hey, look over there. I spell it funny because I didn't have enough characters to spell it the right way, or just look me up as Dan Warren. And on TikTok, look me up as the 5th pillar of emphasis, or just type UFO and look for people. You'll find my videos. My early ones are a little rough, but they've gotten progressively better as I've learned how to use the software.
That's the way it goes, man. That's the way it goes. I tell people all the time who are trying to do a show like this or their own podcast, I tell them 2 things. Make a schedule, stick to it, obviously. But the second thing is get 50 shows under your belt. Do 50 shows. And if you can get to that number, something will start to click where it flows and it's right every time. It feels right. It sounds right. It looks right to other people. You know this because you're getting the response that you're looking for. So yeah, man, just keep trucking, dude. You're doing great. Yeah. I love your TikTok. I think it's awesome. And it's a beautiful way to get a ton of information in a condensed amount of time. So yeah, you nailed it. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. What else do you have to say?
I do have a YouTube channel called the 5th Pillar of Emphasis as well that I'm trying to kind of grow. So if you wouldn't mind subscribing to it, that'd help me out. I'm going to start trying to put more content on there, longer form, because it is hard to get a lot of information in there in those TikTok videos that are limited in time. So at some point, I'm going to start to do longer format shows or videos.
Yes. If you need any help, dude, let me know. I'm always down to help my buddies with stuff like that. So yeah, man, any way I can help you, just please reach out anytime. But I think you're doing great stuff. I don't think you need any help. You're doing it pretty damn good. You're an engineer. You can figure it out. But dude, we appreciate you being here. We appreciate you stopping by and sharing your wisdom and your questions and you're just, dude, you're great. I fucking love you, man. You're great.
Thanks, man.
You're great.
Love you guys too.
I'm so happy I got to meet you and interact with you, man. You're just one of these cool guys in this community. I could talk to you anytime. You're just such a cool dude. And please send my love to your family and your kids. I know they had fun crashing your conversation there. So.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna go talk to her right now.
Yeah. All right, Dan Warren. We'll see you soon, my friend.
Thank you, guys. Have a nice night.
Peace. All right.
Fun show. Yeah.
That was a fun show, dude. Yeah. What do you got cooking this week?
Yeah, I still feel like I'm catching up from my vacation, trying to read everything and get up to speed. But yeah, working on a video about some of the terrible possibilities, some spooky possibilities of this alien disclosure might lead, and hope to have a video out in a week or so.
Can you share with maybe one of those?
Imagine if an alien came up to you and said, "Hey Lou, if your show goes on as planned and you convince everyone there are aliens, we're going to have to kill you all, eliminate humanity. If humanity knew about our existence, you're done."
Ooh, that's a tough predicament. Like that means I'd have to essentially end my show, right?
That's the question.
Yeah.
What would be the right answer? Can you trust something like that?
Can you trust something like that? Yeah. It just seems like, really? My YouTube channel? You sure about that? You guys want to double check the timeline on that one before you come back and make that as a definitive statement? Are you sure? This channel? Okay. All right. I'll suspend my disbelief.
I will say,
I'll go along with it.
If you ever shut down this show, that's exactly what I'm going to assume happened.
Yeah. I mean, short of that, I can't imagine what's going to stop the show other than me not being here anymore. Jesus, knock on wood. That was dark. All right, you guys. Well, before we get out of here, of course, we want to pay some bills. We want to say thank you to the sponsor, BlueMarlinChronicles.com, purveyors of the world's finest fishing tackle since 1995. I want to say thank you to DOS Tapes. They provide all of the tunes that you hear on the show. All of our guests that joined us today, their links will be in the description below. And our podcast will be available shortly after the show, which you can find on Spotify, iTunes. Thank you for donating to the super chats. We super appreciate it. All of you guys in the chats that always have great questions and very, very what's the word I'm looking for? Bountiful chats. I truly appreciate it. All of these things make the show better. And want to say thank you to Tina Tomaszewski for being our chat moderator. She always comes up with the awesome. Look at her. Look at this. Look how quick she is, dude. I mentioned podcast. There's a link for the podcast. I mean, she's just a machine, and we love her. So thank you so damn much for being a part of the show. Also, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. That way you're notified anytime we do a new show, which, by the way, Daniel Miller's Known Quantities premieres tomorrow, 4 o'clock. It'll be from 4 to 5. So come check it out. Show Daniel Miller some love. I'll be there as a producer for support. He's going to be interviewing Sean Rash. So don't miss the show. Every Tuesday at 4, you're going to get an hour of Miller. So that's going to be a really cool thing to watch grow and see where that wonderful voice of Miller is going to take us. I can't wait to check it out. And yeah, don't forget the merch store. Hit the link tree down below. It'll give you a link to not only all of my stuff, but Rather's got one there too, so you can go check out all the stuff we do. So we really appreciate you guys out there. Thank you so damn much for coming aboard, getting weird with us here on another episode of the Unidentified Celebrity Review, your home for credible news, reviews, and commentary on everything UAP and UFO. Until next time, you guys, stay safe out there. Peace. The Unidentified Celebrity Review would like to thank all of our Patreon subscribers. Thank you for being a member of Patreon. Neurostream, Alex Milius, Max Mustardon, John Russell, Elizabeth Bowden, Kenny Campbell, Tom Davis, Max. I think we got Max's name on there twice. Colin Smith, Matthew Riot, Mo Ublick, Jedi Camper, Gerald Greenwood, Rains Daily, UFO PN, Matthew Lee, NMUAP, Neurostream, Carl Mann. Oh man, are some of these things coming up twice? Rather, should we? I need to look at this again. But thank you all so damn much. We love you. I'm going to tell you all right now, all of these wonderful people would not be here without Patreon supporters like you. If you enjoy credible news, reviews, and commentary on UFOs and UAPs 5 days a week, you want to support this show. What's your name? Marty. Marty, look how easy this is, Marty. Pick up your phone. Boom, you're a Patreon member. I mean, look, it's so easy. You just click the link, which is right here. Just for $1 a month, you can support this show. Just fill out the information and pledge what's comfortable for you. It could be $1, $5, $10, or who knows. Just support.
I believe you're enjoying all this. Indeed, Captain. I've never seen him look so happy.
Shut up!
Shh. Shh.
Well, what do you know? I finally got the last word.